In this video, we are going to talk about how cultural and religious reform gave way to some famous religion that came into existence, that is Jainism and Buddhism. I'll make a timeline and show you everything in a chronological order so that you get the context and understand the story with respect to time. During the period of 700 to 200 BCE, India saw the rise of two very important religions, Jainism and Buddhism. The arrival of these two religions is seen as a symbol of cultural unity. Before their arrival, India was under the influence of Vedic religion, which is very famously known as the Vedic period. And the Vedic period was named after the Vedas. The historical Vedic religion was the religion of the Indo-Aryans because they wrote these Hindu scriptures when they arrived in India, somewhere around 1500 BCE, or maybe before that as most historians believe. The entire Vedic religion primarily revolved around Brahmins playing a major role in the society. That's how Vedic religion came to be known as Brahmanism, and later it became Hinduism. Buddhism originated in 5th century. This was also the time when the Vedic period came to an end. Now the immediate question would be, what happened during this period? As I said moments back that the entire Vedic religion primarily revolved around Brahmins playing a major role in the society. Due to that, Brahmins considered themselves superior to others and they inherited immense power, which also made them very arrogant. Before we go further, let me quickly tell you about the social classes that existed during Vedic period. There was a word given to it. It's called Varna. It is a Sanskrit word which means type, order, color, or class. So basically society was divided in social classes or Varnas. The Varna system, according to the Vedas, which is the Hindu text, it was believed as an idealized human calling. But many historians believe that this kind of a logic was to create a myth, just like how many cultures have stories which describe the origin of natural phenomena that has absolutely no scientific basis. However, people did not see it as a myth, and soon the Varna system became a custom. And if you see today, this myth is being followed successfully in many communities. And when I say successfully, I do not mean that it is something that should have happened. Rather, what I'm trying to say is that what happened 2000-3000 years ago is still carried out today in our society, which has created an atmosphere of violence, where every communal or casteist fanatic finds it right in the act of killing, burning, and other acts of cruelty. So it is a sad part of our history. Anyways, the society was divided into 4 Varnas. Brahmins, it consisted of priests, scholars, and teachers. Then there were Kshatriyas, which consisted of rulers, warriors, and administrators. After that, there were Vaishyas, who were mainly the farmers and merchants. And then Shudras, it consisted of laborers and service providers. Communities which belong to one of these 4 Varnas are called Savarna. In the present day context, this kind of a social stratification is known as Jati, caste, or Gotras. You see, we all belong to a particular caste or community. That's what many of our parents or elders in our family have told us. So basically, this whole ideology of dividing society on the basis of caste came from the Vedic period. So as I just said, any community which belonged to one of these 4 Varnas that we just saw, they were called as Savarna. Likewise, the communities who did not belong to any of these Varna, they are called as Avarna, like the Dalits and scheduled tribes. So this was the entire structure in which the society was categorized during Vedic period. The Brahmin community were the ones who suggested this Varna system because their traditional occupation was that of a priest in a Hindu temple, and they earned their living by teaching dharma. Hence, they became the highest ranking class among the 4 social classes. They started creating many stringent rules and regulations that had to be followed, or otherwise one would not reach heaven. With this kind of superiority, they started becoming arrogant towards other communities who found difficulties in following these rules, especially the weaker section of the society. They demanded an improved social position. This all continued from 1500 BCE to 700 BCE. Soon this led to the unpopularity of Brahmanism. You see, the Vedic religion had become very complex and harsh. It was causing discomfort to the weaker sections of the society, and that is how new religions started emerging like Jainism and Buddhism. Now you will have to remember this point. Jainism arrived before Buddhism. Jainism originated in the 7th century BCE. The founder of Jainism was Rishabhadeva. He was the first of the 24 Tirthankaras, basically a Devta or god of Jains, and Mahavira was the last Tirthankara. In a nutshell, Jainism was taught by 24 spiritual teachers known as Tirthankara. And Jainism is divided into two major school of thoughts or branches. They are Digambara and Swatembara. Let's talk a little about Mahavira. Though Jainism as a religion started in 7th century BCE and it was taught by 24 spiritual teachers, the last teacher was Mahavira. He was born in 6th century and that's how he became the last god of the Jain community. Mahavira was born into a royal family. His father was Siddhartha, who was a Kshatriya, meaning a ruler. So basically his parents were Hindus and they were rulers. They were rich and they had a very high status in the society. At the age of 30, Mahavira left home in pursuit of spiritual awakening or enlightenment. He was fond of this newly formed religion called Jainism, as there was no other option because he had already witnessed what Vedic religion was all about and he wanted to try a new one. He practiced intense meditation, self-control, self-discipline and imposed all sorts of strict rules upon himself. And that's how he gained enlightenment and preached Jainism for 30 years. So if you see, the formation of a new religion was an act of liberation from the existing rule or regime. At that time, the Vedic religion was complex and strict. So it clearly tells us that the creation of a new religion was a necessity for cultural reform. Now think for a second, if a new religion has to evolve, then there has to be some guidelines or a framework so that people could follow it, just like how Vedic religion had their framework, which were the Vedas. Similarly, Jainism also needed a framework. As a new religion, they had to be particular about the fact that it had to be different from the Vedic guidelines, because that's the whole point behind coming up with a new religion. It's like the new policy should correct all the flaws of the previous one. And naturally, trial and error was part of it. So basically, the formation of a new religion was like a movement against the orthodox and ritualistic Brahmanical religion. While Jainism was evolving, there was another religion that started emerging, that is Buddhism. And this new movement was led by Gautam Buddha. Before he became a Buddha, his name was Siddhartha Gautama. He was born in 563 BCE at Lumbini, which is modern-day southern Nepal. Even his parents belonged to Hindu religion. They had high status in the society. His father was a king and they lived a luxurious life. And just like Mahavira, even Siddhartha left his home when he was young in pursuit of spiritual awakening and enlightenment. Basically, both of these movements were against the orthodox and ritualistic Brahmanical religion. We can also call Mahavira and Siddhartha as reformers. Both the reformers emphasized a good moral life and the importance of ethics. Both of them founded an order of monks, established monasteries. For Jainism it was called sthanakas and for Buddhism it was viharas. Now both Mahavira and Siddhartha, despite being a reformer, they were also seekers. They were constantly seeking answers about good ethical life. As I said that Jainism came before Buddhism, so clearly Jainism had evolved much before Buddhism. Or we can also say that before Siddhartha was born, Jainism had gained enough popularity. So it means that Siddhartha was very much influenced by Jainism, and especially the teachings of Mahavira. In fact, he was so much impressed by Mahavira and the Jain monks that at some point he even tried to become one. Now at that time, to become a holy man, you had to give up all the things that you like, so that it can help you in defeating your desires. By doing so, they believed that their Atma or soul would be free from pain and sadness. For example, the Jain monks practiced intense and severe self-sacrifice and made themselves suffer very much. Even Siddhartha did that. He deprived himself of food and water and he almost killed himself. He did this for 6 years. But he found no answers, and that's when he decided to leave his Jain teachers and made his way to this town of Gaya, modern-day Bodh Gaya. He thought that there might be a better way to find answers than hurting himself, and that's when he decided to sit under a fig tree in Bodh Gaya. He then continuously meditated till 7 days, and after 7th day, he notices a spiritual awakening within himself. And from that moment, according to Buddhist scriptures, he became the Buddha. Buddha never met Mahavira, and I'm not sure if Mahavira was dead by his time, but Mahavira was older, and there is no record that says they both met anytime. But Buddha had countless philosophical debates with Jain monks, and most of the time, the Jain monks lost in front of Buddha's ideology. He gave his first teaching in Sarnath. It's called the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. It was written in Pali language, which was the known language during Buddha's time. He died in 483 BCE in Kushinagar, present-day state of northern Uttar Pradesh. As time went by, even Buddhism went through numerous changes. It was split into three divisions: the Hinayana, the Mahayana, and the Vajrayana. The third one was added later. Basically, these three divisions are like three different schools of thoughts of Buddhism, which adopted many new format, terminology, and techniques in response to changing circumstances. Buddhism went through numerous changes, and it was spread in countries like Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Cambodia, Vietnam, China, Japan, Thailand, Korea, Mongolia, and Afghanistan. Even today, some percentage of the population of these countries follow Buddhism. Now you must be having a question: how did Buddhism as a religion spread to other countries? So you will have to understand it this way. Buddhism was originated in the 5th century BCE. That was the time when trade, commerce became important in an economy. And Buddhist morals and ethical teachings was heavily liked by the merchants because in the traditional Brahmin Vedic religion, only the Brahmin interests were catered and other communities' interests were ignored. That's how Buddhism gained influence in the communities of merchants, and these merchants proved to be an efficient mode of spreading the Buddhist faith all throughout the Central Asia along with the businesses. But if we carefully look at it, the spread of Buddhism reached its peak during the time of Emperor Ashoka of the Mauryan Empire, who converted to Buddhism after the Battle of Kalinga. Since he was an emperor, he would send his ambassadors to other countries in Europe, China, in spreading Buddhism. Then he would build Buddhist temples and missionaries. Hence, we can say that the central figure of Buddhist religion was Gautam Buddha, but Ashoka was the main person behind preaching Buddhism to the world. If you like this crash course, let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.